I'm still very much adjusting to hot temperatures outside and the shift to freezing cold air conditioning inside. And I couldn't help but laugh as I escaped the fiery inferno known as the outdoors and stepped into the freezing cold air conditioning of the indoors, that the first thing that I did was put on a cardigan and some warm fuzzy socks to warm up again. And I think that that is a pretty comparable analogy to what it feels like for a victim that leaves an abusive relationship. They step away with a lot of attempts and hesitation and a lot of turmoil to escape a volatile, chaotic inferno of abuse and potential danger, and find themselves in a very cold, dark, and isolating environment where they're left to self-warm, to self-console, to self-advocate, and have very little support in that process. It's so important to an abuser, once a victim leaves, that they make sure they don't look like the bad guy. They want to be seen as the good guy, and their image is very important to them. And they will go to great lengths to control the narrative and to manipulate the story and events and what happened so that the victim takes all the blame for the reason that relationship failed. And this is applicable in abusive workplace settings, family dynamics that are abusive, intimate partner relationships that are abusive, in any and all of the above. But an abuser, when they can't control their victim anymore, in the relationship, they seek to control how others see the victim. That becomes their new motivation. And it's also very important to an abuser that the victim not do better after they leave the abuser, because then the abuser might be seen as the problem. So they don't want the victim to be seen in a positive light. They don't want them to have success or grow in their career or get a nicer house or nicer car. And they definitely don't want their victim to enter into a new relationship that's more positive, or where they may perceive that that new partner is better than them. So they will enter into oppressive and aggressive smear campaigns to paint the victim with a black brush, to paint them in a false light, and they will elicit the help of the friends, family, coworkers, support system of the victim. So sadly, the people that the victim would have thought would have been in their corner or their support systems during such a difficult time are often consoling and helping the abuser instead of them, which can be incredibly painful to a victim, that here their support system is believing their abuser and doesn't even bother to listen or hear their side of the story, but just falls for the manipulation. At the end of the day, we can't control what others feel about us, how they see us, what they say and do. So it really becomes an opportunity to find that the opinions of others really aren't relevant, because the people that should be in our life would be in our corner, would defend our names, would know who we are and come to our rescue in situations like that. And I think it's God's way of clearing out the people in our life that shouldn't be there, because people of high vibration are not spending their time engaging and participating in gossip. High vibrational people are too busy improving self, building their lives. They're not engaging in smear campaigns. So it's an opportunity to really see who was in your corner and who wasn't, and clear those people out that weren't there for you. I think it's so important when you're being attacked by an abuser's smear campaign, to not engage, even though it can be hard to have such horrible, untruth things said about you. At the end of the day, you know your truth, you know what's reality, and it's not worth entertaining. It's a tale as old as time that an abuser will attack the character of the victim and be speaking about that victim for years and years after the relationship. And, there's the slut shaming. They'll claim that the victim's promiscuous or was a cheater, or they'll make false claims that the victim has STDs or that the victim's a drug user. They will do anything they can to discredit the victim. The victim's the problem. The victim's the emotionally unstable one. They were the abusive one. And they will be so boisterous in telling the story like, woe is me. I'm the victim here. And meanwhile, the victim, isn't doing that. They're busy trying to rebuild their lives because meanwhile, in the background, the abuser is trying to get them fired from jobs and trying to, displace them from their housing and destabilize them. They're doing everything they can to make sure that victim doesn't do well because, if a victim's looking better, feeling better after they leave their abuser, it's pretty clear what was going on, right? So I think that it's so important for those that find the courage to leave an abusive situation. It's not like you leave this hard situation and life gets easier. It's going to be pretty difficult because that abuser isn't going to stop abusing you. He or she is not going to have the same direct access, but they will definitely be motivated to control how others see you and to make sure you don't have solid support or people in your corner. But it's a beautiful opportunity to identify the strength within you and to really self-love and to get your self-worth and self-identity from within and not give any kind of weight to the voice or opinions of others. You can't control how they're going to see you anyway, no matter what you do. So as you're rebuilding your life from scratch, you can redefine what type of quality people you're going to allow into your life. And now you have a much more discerning lens. You can see those red flags. If you date someone and they're speaking about their exes and they take no accountability for any past failed relationships, it'll resonate because it'll be a red flag that you're familiar with. You'll be able to detect people that have those same patterns and be able to avoid situations like that in the future, because our time, our energy, our presence, our love is precious. And sometimes keeping your circle small with high quality people is far more important than having multitudes of people in your life that really aren't looking out for your best interest anyway. So if you're a witness to a victim being smeared, I would encourage you to, find something better to do with your time and to probably give a little bit of love and support to the person that is being spoken about, because there's probably a deeper story there. And just be mature enough to not engage in that. When healthy relationships terminate, the people walk away respectfully and wish each other well and, understand that it didn't work out, but continue to be mature and respectful. And if somebody isn't able to do that and cannot stop speaking negatively about somebody that's no longer in their life, that's a huge red flag that other person probably went through quite a bit with that person that can't stop talking about them, that they were targeted within the relationship and they're being targeted outside of the relationship. And, if you're being included in this kind of a smear campaign, you have to really wonder, why is it that people would think that I would be approachable to participate in that? Why would they think that I would receive negative gossip and that I would entertain that and welcome it? What do I need to change within me so that people know not to come to me with gossip? Because once you set that standard, you're going to eliminate involvement in situations that really are damaging to other people and that aren't good for self. If you're speaking badly about other people and abusing and mistreating them, you're not going to feel good about self. You're not focusing on building yourself up when you're focused on someone else. So just shedding a little light on that dynamic, that typical smear campaign dynamic where a victim will become targeted, isolated, spoken ill about, and no one will ever ask the victim the truth or what their side of the story is, because the abuser has discredited them with all of these, narratives about who they are that are not real. To be mindful, when you're hearing this kind of thing going on. It's evident if you sit back with eyes that are wise, because gossip dies when it falls on wise ears.